Good afternoon, travel professionals. Welcome to today's JaxFAX training session. Thank you all very much for taking the time to join us. We do appreciate it. My name is Doug Cook. I'm the publisher of JaxFAX Travel Marketing, and I will be your moderator today. Today's webinar is being sponsored by Sky Vacations, and the director of Sky Vacations, Richard Krieger, is here with us and will be available to answer questions later. And today we're going down under to explore the Whitsundays in Queensland, Australia. And presenting this region of the world is going to be Laura Jones, Country Manager of the Americas for Queensland Tourism. That is going to do it for me. Laura, let me turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Doug. So thank you everybody for joining today, morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. As Doug mentioned, my name is Laura Jones. I am with Tourism and Events Queensland. Today we're going to speak a little bit specifically about a beautiful area of Queensland, the Whitsundays. And before we start any meetings or presentations in Australia, we like to first acknowledge the traditional owners of country, the country of Australia, but also the country that we're all standing on today, wherever we happen to be meeting, and acknowledge their their ongoing commitment to traditions, culture, and the preservation of land. So let's crack into it. The gorgeous, gorgeous Whitsundays. If you're not familiar with the region, a little bit of a geography. So when we're talking Queensland, it's the northeast part of Australia, most famous for the Great Barrier Reef. When we're talking the Whitsundays, we're about halfway up. You can access this region, or clients rather can access this region from two airports domestically. There's Great Barrier Reef Airport, known as HTI, because it is located on Hamilton Island. And then the Whitsunday Coast Airport, PPP, which is actually for Proserpine, which is the name of the land of that region. Domestically, clients can get to the Whitsundays on Jetstar, who code share with Qantas, Virgin, who have an amazing partnership with United Airlines, and of course our mates at Qantas, and really accessible from not only other cities in Queensland, but some hotspots of Sydney and Melbourne, and across the country. So the Whitsunday is doing quite the zoom in. I mentioned Proserpine. You can see it here marked in on the map. From the airport, you're about 20 minutes to Airlie Beach. We're going to talk about Airlie today and some of the accommodation options. But the Whitsundays is probably most famously known for our 74 islands, and a couple of sites in particular, which I'm sure you'll recognize when I show you the pictures. So we do believe the Whitsundays is exceptionally iconic for Australia and broader South Pacific travel, and we are home to three of Australia's natural wonders. So first and foremost, the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef actually starts south of the Whitsundays and extends all the way up to the north. It is one of the most prominent natural wonders of the world, and certainly of Australia. It's the only reef visible from space, which is amazing. There's certainly lots to be explored for either really hardcore enthusiasts of the underwater world, or just those that want to see it as one of the world's natural wonders. You might also recognize this beautiful picture. Heart Reef is absolutely iconic and used a lot in our and our partners' marketing materials. There is a new experience that travelers can do out at Heart Reef, and so we'll be talking a little bit about that. And then a beach that's very famous in the Whitsundays, and it's won a lot of awards for kind of world's or South Pacific's best beach. It's called Whitehaven Beach, and this magical inlet called Hill Inlet. The unique quality about Hill Inlet is because the tides are always changing, always different. That sand pattern will never be the same twice. So whenever people get the chance to take a helicopter and take a picture, that's like a very custom special memory of their experience, because the next day it will look completely different. And then so getting into it, I mentioned that there's 74 islands, some inhabited, some not. There's also an incredible hike that people can do across the islands, and no trip to the Whitsundays is complete without some kind of island exploration. With our partners at Sky Vacations, the itinerary that we have featured actually calls specifically upon Hamilton Island as a place to stay, and I can give you some overview of the island and some talking points when you are talking to clients. So first of all, Hamilton is the largest inhabited island in the Whitsundays group. It's a car-free island, for the most part car-free, so everybody gets about via golf buggy, which is really fun for those visitors that are used to driving golf buggies. But it's a fully equipped island with all the services that you could expect, like a grocery store, there's a post office, there's medical services, there's an array of nice shops and restaurants, but it is a resort island, so everybody's on the island to cater for resort guests. I like Hamilton for groups of like more than one family. I mean, I like Hamilton anyway, but it's exceptionally good for groups because there are a lot of accommodation varieties. And so it gives the individual client the opportunity to kind of choose where they might like to be. So starting at the very, very top end, and for guests age 10 and above, we have Qualia. Qualia is private villas, some with plunge pool. It's a 5-star experience, zero question. This is a leading luxury lodge of Australia. Every guest or every villa gets their own golf buggy, so they can explore the island at their leisure, but it is quite secluded and in a separate area of the island, so very, very exclusive. Then we move over to Beach Club. Beach Club is also an adults only property. They only take guests 16 and above, I believe. It is absolute beachfront, but more in the heart of things. So with guests staying here, they'll have the flexibility to go to different restaurants and, you know, use the beach, which is a public beach. That is breakfast inclusive. Qualia is all inclusive. And then a more traditional style of accommodation is the Reef View. That's a larger tower structure with lots of different room categories, or the Palm Bungalows, which are more family-friendly villa style. Cool little point of reference, Hamilton was actually the primary location for the recent George Clooney, Julia Roberts film Ticket to Paradise. So if anybody's had guest stay at Hamilton or seen photos, if you watch that film, you might be able to pick out some of the locations, which is very cool. I also wanted to touch on another island in the group of the Whitsundays being Hayman. So, sorry, I should have referenced Hamilton. There is an airport on island, so guests can fly directly in, or you get a boat from Airlie Beach with Cruise Whitsundays. Very easy and actually a really beautiful experience. Then to get to Hayman Island, guests go to Hamilton, and then there's a luxury super yacht that takes them over to Hayman, or they can helicopter from Hamilton Island. It is an intercontinental property, and when looking at this picture, it seems like quite a large resort, but it's really not. They are very, very generously sized rooms, but it's everything you can expect of a 5-star luxury resort. They also newly just opened these beachfront villas, the beachfront pavilions, they're called, 1 and 2 bedrooms. They're adjacent to the property, so about kind of 5 to 7 minutes walk to the main area. Awesome for guests that want another bit of kind of exclusivity, maybe a honeymoon client, and want all the services of a big resort, but feeling a little bit more intimate and secluded. So Hayman is certainly a really great one for your higher end clientele as well. And then I also wanted to pop this in, quite interesting, a property called Elysian Retreat. You can access Elysian via Hamilton Island boat or helicopter, but also from the mainland. And this is an eco property. So I believe it's 22 rooms with everything done in mind and in support of the natural environment. So those that might be a little bit more eco-conscious and want that smaller kind of hotel experience, Elysian's a really beautiful one to look for as well. Getting to and from, I mentioned Cruise Whitsundays. They have a beautiful boat that does all the ferry transfers. They also happen to do reef tours. So Cruise Whitsundays operate from Hamilton. They also operate from Proserpine, and they're one of the larger reef operators in the region. Their experience goes out to this pontoon right on the reef. Pontoon style Great Barrier Reef experiences are brilliant for those that either aren't used to boats or maybe are a little bit nervous because they're moored to the bottom of the ocean floor. So they don't move or sway with the tides. It's a very kind of secure, fixed feeling when you're out there. It's like being on a man-made island. So guests can do a day cruise, which is very, very popular. Once on the pontoon, they can go snorkeling, they can try scuba if they like. That's a semi-submersible craft that you see moored next to or pulled up next to the pontoon. There's glass bottom boats, so there's lots of activities. They can do a helicopter ride. But for those guests that are wanting truly the wow experience, Cruise Whitsundays now have 3 of these amazing underwater reef suites. So it's a one-night stay. Well, you could stay for more if you wanted, but most people do one night. It includes the trip out, an amazing day on the reef. You do get a private little VIP area for Reef Suite guests to stay in during the day. Then they have a gorgeous dinner under the stars and then can head down to their reef suite. The next day they get another full day experience at the reef. So it's those that are kind of really wanting a decent amount of time. Maybe they're not doing an island stay and really want to explore the reef in a little bit more depth. It's also, I mean, the most Instagrammable and brag-worthy photo I think we have on offer right now. If you have checked out the recent Zac Efron documentary on Netflix, he does a feature on Australia, and they actually go out with Cruise Whitsundays, so you can see a little bit more about reef suites in action there, which is very cool. They also have this amazing product, which to be honest, I don't know what I'd choose. I'd be very happy with a Reef Sleep, but it's these private tented queen size beds on the roof of the pontoon. I believe there's about 14 of these, so they're not quite as exclusive, but a really fun option. And certainly we've had clients that have come out that the parents have chose to do a suite and then give the teenagers the Reef Sleep, which is a very good option. You get the private area, you get the 2 full days out on the reef, you get all the meals included again, just the accommodation shifts. But some really unique options, and certainly if you have clients that see these and see pictures, they're an amazing hook for an itinerary because they're very limited in availability. So Reef Sleep particularly, or sorry, suites, if it's something that somebody wants to do and you see an availability, it's a great way to kind of really hook them in and book that itinerary, confirm their trip up. So we've talked a little bit about the islands. I mean, only really 3 of the 74, but some of the ones that are a little bit more popular with this market. I did want to touch on really quickly Airlie Beach. Certainly an island vacation is not for everyone, and sometimes it can be cost prohibitive, but that doesn't mean the clients can't have an amazing stay in the Whitsundays. So Airlie itself is this really charming town. It's kind of a one main road area, some really beautiful restaurants, and it's actually got an incredible super yacht marina, like second in the world to Nice, I believe, which sounds crazy, but I mean, you can see from the water, it's a place that people would want to do that kind of cruising. So it's a really interesting mix of this kind of like local quaint beachside town, and then all these like amazing super yachts coming through. But anyway, a property that I wanted to touch on, I've actually had the pleasure of staying here myself, is the Coral Sea Resort. The wharf or the jetty that you can see out the front here is not a working jetty. It's just for guests to go out and enjoy, sit and catch a breeze or watch the sunset or sunrise. It has a really beautiful, very oceanfront pool that you can see there, great restaurant, and it's just a really, really great option for those that, I mean, to be honest, if you feel like you're on an island because you're right there on the water, but want to be closer into town. I also wanted to touch on a really interesting option here. Big Four is actually known for their holiday parks in Australia, or what we might call camper van parks. So they certainly have that on offer, but they also have this resort area. And for kids, the first time I saw this, and I have a 4-year-old, like I would never be able to get her off these things to actually go out to the reef. So I think it's a really good option, again, if you have clients that are maybe traveling with families and they want something, you know, they kind of want to be based somewhere for a little bit longer. The Big Four Adventure Whitsundays Resort is really a good one to check out. So enough about accommodations, wanting to talk about a few activities, because certainly there is a lot to do out in the Whitsundays. So first and foremost, based from Airlie Beach, there is an amazing product. It's called Lady Enid Sunset Sail. I struggled with my words over that. But it's a cocktail cruise, so it's a perfect pre-dinner activity. Maybe people got early into Ellie Beach that day and they just want like something for the day, but nothing that goes like too late into the evening. You board this gorgeous tall ship. It's a beautiful wooden vessel that the now family ownership have kind of traced back the history and the heritage of the original owner, which is so cool. And there's some really unique stories. You board the vessel, you're given an Aperol Spritz. If that's not to your taste, they have bubbles as well. And everybody gets this beautiful little cheese and prawn, as we call it in Australia, platter, and you head off for this gorgeous sunset sail. These pictures like truly do it justice. That's what the color of the sky looks like. And it's just a wonderful way for clients to be welcomed into the region and something a little bit more special and exclusive. Then there are quite a few ways from Ellie Beach to get out to the Great Barrier Reef, either the inner reefs or the outer reef. So Red Cat Adventures, they have this a really fast boat called Thundercat. Great option. But the other one I wanted to mention was Whitsundays Jet Ski. It is the fastest way to get out to the reef, and some of these snorkeling sites are really, really unique option. Another choice is a company called Bike and Hike Whitsundays. They have great half and full day options if people want a little bit more land-based touring of some of the Whitsunday Islands and of the mainland. But Journey to the Heart of the Reef is an experience off Hamilton Island, exclusive to Hamilton Island. It is a 3-hour experience that starts with a helicopter over Hill Inlet and Whitehaven Beach, over the Heart Reef, and then you head on to this amazing private pontoon, 6 guests for snorkeling and also a glass bottom boat tour. So it's really, really incredible for those that maybe have already done a full day and then just want another little touch of the reef. You can buy the whole thing out as an exclusive, maybe for a special proposal or something. But it's just a really, really lovely day or half day. And then after your snorkeling, you get a couple of glasses of champagne before heading back in your helicopter. And then certainly also to talk about some of the overnight and crude experiences. A company called Explore Group. They do a 2-night weekend on the water product. It leaves on a Friday, back on a Sunday, so it truly is the weekend. It's a very, very brand new product. So they're looking at putting more dates on, but that's a great itinerary all throughout the Whitsundays. It's meal inclusive, so it's a great option for clients that are wanting to see quite a bit at, frankly, a very, very good price. And I believe that's maximum 40 guests, so, or 44 guests. So it's very intimate as well. And then for those that are wanting a crude or a complete charter experience, there are also lots of options from Whitsundays Sailing Adventures for either catamarans or sailing vessels. So lots of different choices. I always say if you've got a client that's interested in that kind of experience, let's work on it together, and you can really share their particulars and we can find the perfect boat for them.
And then that wraps up our Whitsundays update. But with a couple of more minutes, I just wanted to share some highlights of new things in Queensland for those that might be a little bit more familiar with the state. So some new news is certainly, and hopefully you've heard of this, but we do have some new non-stop flight routes announced into Brisbane. So United Airlines was going 3 times weekly, San Francisco to Brisbane. By end of next month, that will be go up to a daily service. And then they're adding a seasonal service November through March from LA to Brisbane. And that will be 3 times weekly. That's on top of our friends at Air Canada who do daily from Vancouver. And then, of course, Qantas coming daily from LA. So there's really multiple flights options a day from the Americas directly into Brisbane. I also wanted to touch on a brand new tour in Brisbane. It's called the Donuts and Discovery Walking Tour. It's a 2.5-hour experience. Brisbane's an incredible city to explore via foot, and this tour really makes the most of that. So you get a donut in one hand, a cup of coffee in the other, and have a wonderful 2.5-hour stroll through the city and the precincts that make up Brisbane. It's a brilliant tour to put your clients on when they first arrive to kind of get their bearings and then discover maybe some of the neighborhoods and areas they might like to go back to. So highly recommend that option for clients in Brisbane. Another way to explore Brisbane is in these gorgeous Danish picnic boats. So they operate in Brisbane or the Gold Coast. You don't need a boat license to operate. They're very, very simple. I believe they can take up to maximum 6 guests. You can see 4 guests on here quite comfortably. You can add on a bottle of wine, you can add on a charcuterie platter, and your clients can see the city and the canals of Gold Coast, City of Brisbane canals of Gold Coast rather, from the water, which is a really unique way to experience it. I did want to touch on some news that occurred back in July, but to make everybody aware that the island previously known as Fraser Island has been officially name changed to K'gari. K'gari is the name of the traditional owners, the Butchulla people, did call the island. And so in honor and recognition of that, the island has been formally renamed to K'gari. So if you see that written anywhere, it's the island formerly known as Fraser Island. And then last but certainly not least, if you're familiar with our Museum of Underwater Art in Townsville, the only underwater museum in all of the Southern Hemisphere, we've recently received a brand new exhibit. So now there's 2 underwater exhibits to the museum. They're called the Ocean Sentinels. They're these larger than life sculptures that are modeled off real people. So scientists, pioneers. My particular favorite story is one of the muses is a 9-year-old girl who started a straw conservation program in Australian schools. So she has a sentinel created after her. And they're brand new. So they were dropped in June. They're already starting to get a fun layer of coral growth on them. And then over to the right, you can see our other underwater exhibit, the Coral Gardens, that's been placed for a couple of years now, and how the corals really attach and attract to these man-made structures. So certainly a wonderful thing for divers to experience, but you can also visit them by snorkeling. And that's it from me today. Thank you so much to our partners at Sky Vacations for allowing us to come here and share a bit of an update on the Whitsundays and certainly some new news in Queensland. And as always, if there's ever anything you need, my name's Laura. I'm based on the East Coast of the US in New York, so you can certainly get me most appropriate time zones for the Americas. I'd also really encourage you to check out our trade website, which has itineraries, maps, calendars, lots of great options there at teq.queensland.com. And also our YouTube has some incredible videos to inspire and also educate. So please go ahead and check those out.